Hey everybody, this is Calabrese again. Welcome to lesson 3 of 6th grade math online style. I'm really excited to be here with you today. Just as a reminder, before you watch this video and complete the lesson 3 assignment, you should have already completed lesson 1 and lesson 2, the video and the assignment. If you haven't yet done those things, please pause the video and go back and make sure you get lesson 1 and 2 finished first. It is time to set up our notes. So make sure before we dive all the way in, you have paper and a pencil and you have a space that is distraction-free and focus positive. Go ahead and grab your pencil. Here we go. Today we are working on Unit 7, Lesson 3. We are comparing, please make your paper look like mine, comparing positive and negative numbers. All right, and I am going to put the date in the corner. Today is April 1st, 2020. Excellent. All right, so before we get started, our objective today is to be able to compare positive and negative numbers using not just words like this one is greater than this one or this one's less than this one, but also with inequality symbols. So I want to review quickly what those two really important symbols are, and we're going to be using them throughout the class today. So since this will be in our notes, this is a great reference for you to come back to as you're thinking independently. So inequality symbols, I'm just going to put a star. Let's take a quick note. Inequality symbols. Inequality, the word inequality means not equal, not equal. So when I'm comparing two numbers or two values that are not equal to each other, I use an inequality symbol. If I'm comparing two numbers that are equal to each other, guess what? I use an equal sign. So an inequality symbol is similar to an equal sign in that it allows you to compare the value of two numbers, but different in that the numbers or the values are not equal. Okay. So here's one. It looks like this. You've seen it before. This is less than. So it should be opening to the right. You've probably heard that little alligator trick. If I were an alligator, imagine little teeth there. I'd want to be eating the bigger number. So if I read it left to right, the smaller number would be here and the bigger number here. Okay. And then the other one we'll work with today is the other direction. It opens to the left. This is greater than. All right, there are more inequality symbols than these two, but we won't be using them in today's lesson, so we won't review them now. Okay. Let's get started. All right, so our objective today, one more time, is students will be able to use inequality symbols to compare positive and negative numbers. We're going to start by comparing temperatures today. So I'm going to read, please follow along with me. Here are the low temperatures, that's the coldest temperature from the day, in degrees Celsius for a week in Anchorage, Alaska. Okay, so here's the day of the week and the temperature. I noticed right away that some of the temperatures are positive and some of them are negative. I can tell already this task is going to help us compare the temperatures, the positive and negative numbers. Number 1 says, plot the temperatures on a number line. Which day of the week had the lowest low temperature? All right, so 2 steps there. 1 is I'm going to put all of these temperatures on a number line. And 2, I'm going to answer this question, which day of the week had the lowest low temperature? So in planning my number line, I see that the largest number is positive 5. That will be the one most farthest to the right. And the lowest number, one farthest to the left, is negative 5.5. So I'm going to go ahead and make my number line from negative 6 to positive 6. Okay. Go ahead and do that with me. I'm going to go ahead and set up. This is question number 1. Let's draw a number line. Give yourself a lot of space. And my smallest number, remember we said was -6, so I'll start there. And I'll count up by ones. 1 more than -6 is -5. 1 more than -5 is -4. -3. I'll keep going like this. All right, so now I have a number line that goes from -6 all the way to 6. 0 is in the center. Okay, let's get our temperatures plotted. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and plot the temperatures in order of the day of the week. So Monday is at 5 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point on 5 on my number line. And let's label it M for Monday. Okay. Go ahead and finish plotting Tuesday through Sunday. And let's set a timer. How about a minute and a half to do this? And then we'll come back and review. Okay, minute and a half. Go ahead and get started. We are halfway through our time, 45 seconds left. If you're done early, you can also be answering the second part of the question, which day of the week had the lowest low temperature? Okay, there's our time. Let's go ahead and review. Specifically, I want you to pay really careful attention to Wednesday's temperature. That one was not listed on our integer number line because -5 and 5/10 is not an integer. It falls between integers. So that's one I want to make sure we're really careful about when we look at. Okay. All right, here's my thinking. Go ahead and check your work. You should see Monday we plotted at 5. Tuesday here at -1. Wednesday, this is the kicker, the one I want you to triple check and make sure you've got, -5 and 5/10. I'll go ahead and label it here. -5 and 5/10 or -5.5 falls in between -6 and -5. Common mistake is to accidentally put it in between -5 and -4. Because we're so used to positive numbers, that's all we've been working with all of elementary school. And 5.5 usually comes, if I'm working in a positive number, it comes after 5. But since we're negatives, everything's backwards, everything's the inverse. So it comes between -5 and -6. One easy way to just double check is to think, if this were positive, what numbers would it be between? It would be between +5 and +6. So if it's negative, then I'm going to make it between those numbers opposites. Okay. All right, Thursday's at -2, Friday's at 3, Saturday's at 4, Sunday is at 0. Okay. So then the second part of the question said, which day of the week had the lowest low temperature? So if I want to know the lowest, or if I want to know the least, I'm looking to the left, to the left. So the farthest to the left is this one, Wednesday. So my answer to the second part of the question is the day with the lowest low temperature was Wednesday. Okay. It didn't ask me to explain my reasoning, But if it did, I would say it's farthest to the left on the number line, so it must be the least. Okay. If you need a minute to catch up, like if you didn't get this part written down yet, please click pause. Otherwise, let's do the next one. All right. Here is number 2. There's a few parts here. I'm just going to only reveal one at a time. Number 2, the lowest temperature ever recorded in the United States was negative 62 degrees Celsius. Wow, that is really cold. In Prospect Creek Camp, Alaska. The average temperature on Mars is about negative 55 degrees Celsius. Interesting. So I'm wondering if the temperature in the US, the lowest recorded temperature, is warmer or colder than the one on Mars. Maybe you already have an idea. A, which is warmer, the coldest temperature recorded in the USA or the average temperature on Mars? Wow, this is exactly what I was wondering. And then explain how you know. Got it. Okay, so let's do a couple of things first. Let's write down some key information from the question into our notes so that we have them to reference. Okay, so in your notes, with me, go ahead and set up number 2. And we're working on A. So I'm going to go ahead and label coldest in US equals. So I'm just kind of summarizing what's in the question. The coldest temperature in the US is negative 62 degrees, and then I just put a capital C for Celsius. And then the other temperature I have is the average temperature on Mars. So I'm going to write average on Mars equals negative 55 degrees Celsius. Right. So then my job is to say which is warmer. I'm going to go ahead and write that question. Which is warmer? All right. I can't wait to answer this question. Here we go. If I want to know what's warmer, the best way that I know so far, and the way that we practiced in the first question, is actually to show these on a number line. That helps me figure out helps me compare them. It helps me figure out which one is greater or less. So let's go ahead and draw a quick number line. I'm just going to put it here on the side of my paper. I do want to put 0, and I want to put negative 62, and I want to put negative 55. So these are both negative. So I know I'm going to be working to the left of 0. So I'm actually going to put my 0 not in the middle, but I'm going to just put it over here. If you prefer to put 0 in the middle, that's totally fine, but we're not going to be labeling anything in the positives right now. Okay, so then I'm imagining I'm counting back, and I'm not going to draw 55 tick marks here because that seems like a lot of extra work that I don't need to be doing. But let's go ahead and put, what number do you think would come first, closest to 0 along the number line? Do you think I would hit negative 55 first or negative 62 first? If you said I would hit negative 55 first, you are correct. Negative 55 is 55 spaces away from 0. So it's closer to 0 than negative 62 degrees, which will be a little farther. Okay. So the question says, which is warmer? Warmer means a high temperature or a low temperature? Warmer means a high temperature. So I'm looking, both of these are actually really cold temperatures, but one of them is warmer than the other. Which one do you think has the higher temperature, the greater temperature? Hopefully you said that this negative 55 degrees is warmer than negative 62 degrees. That's because it's farther to the right, and that means that it's greater. Okay, so this one is the one that is warmer. That one is the average temperature on Mars. So if I'm answering this question, I'm going to write the average temperature on Mars, negative 55 degrees Celsius, is warmer. Go ahead and write that with me. The average temperature on Mars, negative 55 degrees Celsius, is warmer than the coldest temperature in the U.S. This question did say explain how you know. And I'm really glad it did because we didn't get to explain on the first one. So this is great practice. I know that because it's a warmer temperature means a greater temperature, and negative 55 is farther to the right on a number line, showing that it's greater. Okay. You can put your reasoning in your own words, or you can copy the words that I have. I'm just going to start by I know this because. Okay, here's what I have. It's okay if your explanation is a little bit different. I know this because warmer temperature means greater, and negative 55 is farther to the right than negative 62, showing that it's greater. This is interesting, right? If I was comparing positive 55 and positive 62, you know that positive 62 is greater than positive 55. When I'm comparing two negative numbers, that reasoning is actually backwards. That's why it's really helpful, and what I want you to continue doing on your practice today, it's really helpful to draw the number line and really think about it carefully, because your first gut might actually be incorrect because you've been working with positive numbers so fluently for so long. All right, let's do the next one. B, write an inequality to show your answer. Perfect. So we reviewed those inequality symbols at the beginning. My answer is saying which one is warmer and which one is colder. So I'm going to go ahead and set up an inequality to show that answer. This is B. I know I'm comparing the temperatures negative 55 and negative 62. I'm going to leave a blank in the middle and think about the inequality sign. So which of these is greater? I know that the greater temperature, the warmer one, is the one that's farther to the right. So negative 55 is greater than negative 62. So since I wrote negative 55 first, this should say negative 55 is greater than negative 62. So it said write an inequality to show my answer. Here it is. Negative 55 is greater than negative 62. You could also write this using a less than sign. Could you write an inequality using a less than sign that compares these two numbers? Go ahead and write what you think. Just take 15 seconds. Maybe you wrote the same thing. You put the negative 55 first and the negative 62 second. I'm going to go ahead and do that. But maybe you'll notice that this is actually incorrect. Negative 55, what this says is negative 55 is less than negative 62. Is negative 55 less than negative 62? No, actually, negative 62 is less than negative 55 because it's farther to the left. So this one's incorrect. So I'm going to go ahead and just flop the order of the numbers and see if I've made a true statement. Maybe you did this the first time on your own. Negative 62 is less than negative 55. Does that sound right? Negative 62 is less than negative 55. Yeah, negative 62 is farther to the left, so I know it's less than. So either of these answers is okay. All right, let's try the next one. All right, here is number 3. On a winter day, the low temperature in Anchorage, Alaska, again, that cold temperature, was negative 21 degrees Celsius. And the low temperature in Minneapolis, Minnesota was negative 14 degrees Celsius. Maybe you're already thinking which one is warmer. Jada said, I know that 14 is less than 21, so negative 14 is also less than negative 21. This means that it was colder in Minneapolis than in Anchorage. Do you agree? Explain your reasoning. Okay. Let's take a minute right now. And go ahead and jot down your own thinking, and then we'll come back together. So if you need to read it one more time, it's still here for you. Here's 1 minute on the clock to try your best. All right, hopefully you had time to decide if you agree or disagree with this idea Jada has. Maybe you also drew a number line. If you did, give yourself a little self-5, nice job. That's a really great way to be checking your answers. So here's what I was thinking. Not checking your answers, checking your thinking. All right, so I went ahead and drew a number line. I put 0, and I went all the way back to negative 14 and then to negative 21. Since negative 14 is only 14 spaces away from 0, but negative 21 is 21 spaces from 0, then I know that negative 14 must be closer on my number line because it's fewer spaces away. Okay. All right, and then I also labeled M for Minneapolis and A for Anchorage. Then I was thinking a colder temperature is less. So Jada was talking about which one is colder. I think that Anchorage was colder on this day. And I think that because the temperature for Anchorage is farther to the left on the number line than Minneapolis. So Anchorage must be colder. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Let's look back at the question one more time and see what she says. Okay, Jada said, I know that 14 is less than 21. Is that true? Is 14 less than 21? Yeah, positive 14 is less than positive 21. That's true. Judah says, so negative 14 is also less than negative 21. This means that it was colder in Minneapolis than Anchorage. I disagree with Jada. Do you disagree with Jada? Yeah, I disagree with Jada because she's got it backwards. Even though positive 14 is less than positive 21, actually negative 21 is less than negative 14. That's because it's farther to the left, on the number line. Okay, let's write our answer. Jada made a really common mistake, so I'm really glad we got to go over that. Jada is incorrect. Negative 21 is less than negative 14, so it is colder. in Alaska? I think this answer could probably be even stronger if we proved how we know that negative 21 is less than negative 14. So the reason that I like to use is that it's farther to the left, so it's less. Okay, negative 21 is farther to the left on a number line. So it is less. Jada is incorrect. Negative 21 is less than negative 14, so it is colder in Alaska. Negative 21 is farther to the left on a number line, so it is less. Crushed it. All right. We've done a lot of good work together. I want to give you a few minutes to work on these two questions, really on your own, and then we'll just review our answers. I'm going to read them in case it's too small for you to see on your screen. You are going to plot the numbers -2, 4, -7, and 10 on the number line. Label each point with its numeric value. So of course you can't label this one on the screen. You'll have to draw a number line just like we did in number 1. I would make sure it goes all the way to +10 and all the way to -7. Okay, you can also do +10 to -10 if you like it to be really balanced with 0 in the middle. I also want you to answer question 2. Decide whether each inequality statement is true or false. Be prepared to explain your reasoning. Okay, so this first one says -2 is less than 4. You decide, is that true or is that false? Okay, be prepared to explain. I'm going to set a 3.5-minute timer. In the next 3.5 minutes, I want you to complete those 2 questions on your paper. Go. We have about 1.5 minutes remaining. Make sure you've moved on to number 2 at this point. All right, there is our time. I just barely finished in that 3.5 minutes, so that's okay if you didn't quite finish. Go ahead and pause this video, finish your thinking, and then hit play again when you're ready, okay? All right, here is my number line. I did not plot every single number. I only plotted the numbers that it asked for in the question. But remember to make sure your number line is still equally spaced. So I did draw a tick mark for every one unit. So this is 1, 2, 3, here's 4. I just didn't draw in or label all of those in between tick marks. Okay. Which number here is the smallest? I hope you said -7. -7 is the least, the smallest because it is farthest to the left. Which number is the greatest? 10, farthest to the right. Okay, A said, show you just one at a time. A said -2 is less than 4. I say that's true because -2 is left of 4, so it's less. -2 is left of 4, so -2 must be less than 4. Okay. I know that numbers that are less are to the left. Okay. Here is my thinking for B. B, -2 is less than -7. Here's -2, here's -7. -2 is not less than -7. This is false. -7 is left of -2, so -7 is less. Here's my thinking for C. This says 4 is greater than, new sign, new thinking. 4 is greater than -7. This is true. 4 is to the right of -7, so 4 is greater. Here's 4, here's -7. Since 4 is farther to the right, then 4 is greater. And last one, -7 is greater than 10. That is false. -7 is to the left of 10, so -7 is less. I wrote 10 is right of -7, so 10 is greater. Okay. Take a second right now and pause the video if you have not yet done your explanations, or if you missed one of these, I got it incorrect, go ahead and pause the video and make sure you've got it before you move on. All right, we are ready to move on to question 3. I'm going to go ahead and set up on my paper question 3, and here we go. Question 3, Andre says that 1/4 is less than -3/4 because of the two numbers, 1/4 is closer to 0. Do you agree? Explain. All right, so let's go ahead and think about what we need to write here. We're comparing 1/4 and -3/4. So let's go ahead and draw another number line. My favorite strategy, draw a number line. I am going to put 0 in the middle, and I want 1/4 and I want -3/4 on the number line. So I'm going to go ahead and make, I have graph paper, so I'm going to go ahead and make 4 boxes, 1 hole. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be 1 hole. And so one of these boxes then will be 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and label that on my paper. Okay. You probably don't have graph paper. You probably have regular paper. That's totally fine. Just pick a distance that's about like mine. Okay. So let's do the same thing for the negatives. Here is -1. And so where is -3/4? This is my favorite. So every box is 1/4. So here's -1/4, -2/4, -3/4. All right, so we are comparing 1/4 and -3/4. All right, let me read one more time what Andre says, and then I'll make this bigger, my notes bigger for you. Andre says that 1/4 is less than -3/4 because of the two numbers, 1/4 is closer to 0. Do you agree? Explain. I agree that 1/4 is closer to 0. Do you? 1/4 is only 1/4 unit away, whereas -3/4 is 3/4 unit away. So I agree that 1/4 is closer to 0, but I don't agree that 1/4 is less. I actually think -3/4 is less because, do you know why? It's farther to the left. So let's write our answer. I disagree. Negative 3/4 is less than 1/4 because we're using the same reasoning over and over. Can you hear it? We're thinking about farther to the left for small numbers, for less numbers, and farther to the right for greater numbers. So negative 3/4 is less than 1/4 because it is farther to the left than 1/4. All right, take a minute, pause here if you need a little bit of extra time. We have one last question. Okay, number 4, answer each question. Be prepared to explain how you know. Got it. A, which number is greater? Ooh, I've got some questions asking me about which numbers are greater, which is farther from 0, and then a generalization question. These are excellent practice. Let's go ahead and take 2.5 minutes to do these 5 questions. I'll get a timer up for you. 2.5 minutes. Go ahead and try these on your own and we'll come back for the answers. My suggestion would be to draw a number line. Go. This question says, folks, be prepared to explain how you know. It's okay if you don't write it. All right, folks, let's review. The first question says, which number is greater, 1/4 or 5/4? Here's my thinking. I said that 5/4 is greater than 1/4. Remember, greater means farther to the right, and 5/4 is farther to the right on a number line. B, the question said, which of those two numbers, 5/4 and 1/4, is farther from 0? 5/4 is farther from 0. This is just review of elementary school number line stuff to make sure you've still got it now that we've been talking about negative numbers. Let's get into some negatives. This makes it interesting. C said, which number is greater, 5/8 or negative 3/4. If I were to draw a number line, here's 0. Here somewhere about is 5/8, and here somewhere about is negative 3/4. No matter what, the positive number is going to be greater than the negative number, because always the positive numbers are to the right and the negative numbers are to the left. So if I'm looking for greater, I'm looking to the right, that 5/8 is going to be greater. The answer is 5/8. Solve 5 if you got that one. Good work. And then this one's my favorite. Part D said, which is farther from 0, 5/8 or negative 3/4. So in order to compare these, I actually had to convert negative 3/4 into eighths so that I could compare distance and so I could compare value. So instead of negative 3/4, I started thinking about this number as negative 6/8. Remember, I can multiply 3 times 2 is 6, and 4 times 2 is 8. So negative 3/4 is equal to negative 6/8. When I'm comparing negative 6/8 then with the other number 5/8, I found that negative 6/8 is farther from 0 than 5/8. Kind of like how negative 6 is farther from 0 than 5. Same thing with 8s. So the answer is negative 3/4 is farther from 0. That's a great question, spicy question. All right, and then this last one, I want to read it again, make sure I've got it. Is the number that is farther from 0 always the greater number? All right, I'm not sure if I'm done with my explanation, we'll have to read it. E, I said no, there could be a number that is far from 0 but has a small value like negative 100. I need a little bit more of my explanation. What I want to say is that there are numbers that are closer to 0 than this that have a greater value. Like the number negative 2. The number negative 2 is less far from 0 and has a greater value. So it's not necessarily true that things that are farther from 0 are greater. Those are different. Far from 0 is different than greater and less. Remember, greater means to the farther to the right, and less means farther to the left. Awesome. Let's do a quick summary, and then we're good to go, team. Here's what I got. Okay. We use the words greater than and less than to compare numbers on the number line. For example, the numbers negative 2 and 7/10, 0 and 8/10, and negative 1 and 3/10 are shown on this number line. I love those decimal examples on this integer number line. Just a reminder, remember to be really careful when you're plotting those. Think about what two positive integers they'd be between and put them between those two negative integers. So like positive 1.3 would be between 1 and 2. So I see here it's between negative 1 and negative 2. Because negative 2.7 is to the left of negative 1.3, we say that negative 2.7 is less than negative 1.3. We write negative 2.7 is less than negative 1.3. In general, any number that is to the left of a number is less, of a number n, is less than that number n. We can see that negative 1.3 is greater than negative 2.7 because 1.3 is to the right of negative 2.7. We write negative 1.3 is greater than negative 2.7. In general, any number that is to the right of a number n is greater than n. This is great information to put into your lesson summary comment. We can also see that that 0.8, 0 and 8/10 is greater than negative 1.3, and 0.8 is greater than negative 2.7. In general, any positive number is greater than any negative number. Awesome. You guys, we crushed it. What we did today is we compared positive and negative numbers on a number line and with inequality symbols. We've also been talking about the sign of a number. The sign of any number other than 0 is either positive or negative. So if you hear the word sign, I'm talking about is that number positive or negative. For example, the sign of 6 is positive, the sign of negative 6 is negative. 0, poor guy, does not have a sign. 0 is neither positive nor negative. But that's what makes him cool. All right, folks, this was Unit 7, Lesson 3, comparing positive and negative numbers. A couple of reminders. Please, right after watching this video, type up a 1 to 2 sentence lesson summary and post it as a comment in Google Classroom so that I can read it and give you some feedback, and so that I know what was the stickiest part of the lesson for you. Second thing you need to do is complete your independent practice assignment. It is due at 10 p.m. tonight, April 1st. If you would like some help on that assignment, please attend office hours with Mr. Zamora at 3:15 today. If you miss those office hours, that's okay. Do your best on your own, and you can request to join reteach tomorrow morning at 10:45. I think that's it, folks. I hope that you had a wonderful time. I certainly did. I look forward to tomorrow. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Have a great day.